Ever feel like you're trying to learn something new,
Hmm.
to really dive deep, but there's just so much information out there. It's like, where do you even begin?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Information overload is a real struggle these days. But you know what? We're tackling a skill today that can help with all that learning, sort of a foundation for everything else.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the magic solution?
It's not exactly magic, more like good old-fashioned training, but for your mind. Effective mental training? We're basing this deep dive on a really interesting piece called Seven Keys to Effective Mental Training.
Okay, so like, are we talking meditation, brain games?
Well, it's broader than that. Think of it like this. It's the process of actively rewiring your brain. You're building up mental muscles, so to speak.
Ah,
Mm.
okay, so like physical training, but for our minds.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just like with physical training, there are specific techniques and approaches that make it more effective. That's what we're going to dig into today.
So if I'm trying to learn a new language or really get into a tough subject or even just trying to focus better at work, mental training can help with all that.
Precisely. It's surprisingly versatile. The source we're looking at gives some really cool examples. Tackling a new language is a great one. Or going really deep into an academic subject, like imagine finally understanding quantum physics.
Okay, that's ambitious, but I get it.
Or mastering a strategy game like chess or Go. Or even just getting better at focusing at work when you have a million distractions popping up. It's all about that deliberate mental effort.
I see. So our mission today is to break down these 7 keys to effective mental training and see what we can really learn from them. What are the practical takeaways that we can all apply no matter what we're trying to learn or improve?
That's the plan. So are you ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's do it. Where do we even start with mental training?
Well, the first key is surprisingly simple, but also often overlooked.
Yeah, this is going to be good. Hit me with it.
Embrace being a beginner.
Oh, come on. Everyone hates being a beginner. It's all awkward and fumbling around.
Exactly. And that's the problem. We often have this expectation that we should be good at things right away. But the source really points out that initial awkwardness, that feeling of not being good at something, it's not just a temporary setback. It's actually a natural and necessary part of the learning process.
So it's not just me being bad at everything new I try.
No, not at all. It's a human thing. We all go through it. But what's interesting is that our aversion to this beginner stage can actually hold us back.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're constantly focused on how much you're sucking at it, as the author puts it, you're not really focusing on the learning itself. You're more worried about performance and results.
Right. Yeah. It's like you're so caught up in feeling bad that you don't even give yourself a chance to actually get better.
That's it, exactly. But if you can shift your perspective and really accept that sucking at it is okay, it's part of the process, then you can start to enjoy the learning itself.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. It's like instead of beating yourself up for not being perfect right away, you're focusing on those small improvements, those little aha moments.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that expertise is built step by step. You don't suddenly become a master. You accumulate knowledge and skills over time.
Right. And that takes time and effort and, yeah, probably a lot of initial fumbling around.
But that's okay. It's all part of the journey.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this mental training thing works. So what's the next key?
This one is all about how you approach your learning environment. It's called immerse yourself.
Okay, immerse myself. Sounds intense.
Yeah.
Like, do I need to quit my job and move to a monastery to study ancient philosophy?
Well, it doesn't have to be that drastic. It's more about creating an environment where you're consistently exposed to what you're trying to learn.
So instead of just cracking open a textbook once a week, I need to be surrounded by it, even if it's just for a short period each day.
That's the idea. The source contrasts this with those less effective methods we often rely on. Those quick 5-minute language app sessions or skimming through a chapter before a test.
Oh, yeah, definitely guilty of those.
We all are. But the point is that those brief, infrequent exposures just don't have the same impact as really immersing yourself, even if it's just for a dedicated time each day.
So it's like the difference between occasionally glancing at a map and actually living in a new city.
Mm.
You get a much deeper understanding when you're constantly interacting with it.
Precisely. And this principle applies to way more than just languages. Think about learning chess. If you're surrounded by other players, studying games, constantly working through puzzles, you're going to improve much faster than someone who just plays a casual game once a week.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not about overwhelming yourself with information, but more about making it a regular part of your mental landscape.
Exactly. Whether you're trying to grasp the nuances of chemistry or hone your writing skills or even just cultivate deeper focus at work, the idea is to create an environment where the subject matter is constantly present.
So I don't need to build a giant chemistry lab in my basement.
No, not at
Yeah.
all. The source talks about regular immersion being at least 30 minutes on most days. It's about establishing that consistent connection, making it a non-negotiable part of your routine.
Okay, that feels doable. 30 minutes a day, I can manage that.
And you'll be surprised by how much of a difference that consistent engagement can make. It's way more effective than those sporadic bursts of intense effort followed by long periods of disengagement.
Which I'm guessing leads us nicely to the next key.
You got it. This one's about maintaining that effort over time. Key number 3, be consistent with your training.
Okay, this one sounds pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to it than just keep practicing.
You're right, it's about more than just willpower. The source highlights a really common pitfall that trips a lot of people up.
Oh, I'm sure I've fallen into this trap before. What is it?
It's that tendency to just give up when you hit a snag. Maybe you miss a few days of practice or you feel like you're not making progress as fast as you'd like.
Oh, yeah, that feeling of, well, I've already messed up, so might as well just quit. I know that feeling all too well.
It's incredibly common. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But the key here is to actively resist that urge.
Easier said than done.
It can be. But the author makes a really compelling point about the power of consistency. They compare it to compound interest, how those small, regular deposits can build up to something significant over time.
Oh, I see. So it's like, even if you're only putting in a little bit of effort each day, it's still adding up. It's still making a difference.
Exactly. It's much more effective to do, say, 30 minutes of focused practice 5 days a week than to try and cram it all into one massive 3-hour session on the weekend.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like you're keeping the information fresh in your mind. You're constantly reinforcing those neural connections.
That's it. It's that persistent, consistent effort that really leads to lasting learning.
Okay, I'm getting the picture. Consistent effort. Check. What's next on the list?
This one might seem a bit counterintuitive, especially after that talk about consistency and hard work.
Oh, now I'm really curious. What is it?
Key number 4 is let it be play.
Wait, play. How does that fit in with all this serious mental training stuff?
It's a great question. The source makes a really important point here. It's not that hard work and effort aren't important. They absolutely are. But the author argues that if your training feels like a constant grind, if it's something you're forcing yourself to do, you're more likely to burn out.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to stick with it.
Exactly. Think about sports. Even though athletes are pushing their physical limits, there's an element of playfulness to it. It's a game, and that makes it fun even when it's hard.
Okay, I get it. So how do we bring that same spirit of playfulness into something like, I don't know, studying history or practicing focus? It's not exactly a game of basketball.
It can be tricky, but the source offers some helpful suggestions. Things like setting little challenges for yourself or tracking your progress in a fun way, or even finding a study buddy so you can make it more social.
Like turning flashcards into a competition or making up silly mnemonics to remember facts.
Exactly. It's about finding ways to inject a bit of lightness and fun into the process.
Okay, I can see how that would make a difference. It's like you're tricking your brain into enjoying something that might otherwise feel like a chore.
In a way, yes. The source acknowledges that finding those playful elements can take some creativity. It's not always obvious how to make studying complex topics feel like a game.
But it's worth the effort, right?
Absolutely. The author emphasizes that finding ways to bring in that playfulness can have a huge impact on your motivation and engagement. It's not just about making it easier, it's about making it sustainable.
Right, because who wants to keep doing something they hate, even if it's good for them?
Exactly. Okay, ready for the next key.
Hit me with it.
This one's about confronting a common fear that holds many people back.
Uh-oh, this sounds ominous. What is it?
Key number 5, get over the fear of embarrassment.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. I think everyone struggles with that to some degree.
It's incredibly common, that feeling of looking foolish, of making mistakes and being judged. It can be paralyzing.
It's like you don't even want to try something new because you're so afraid of messing up.
Right, it's that vulnerability aspect that gets us. Putting yourself out there when you know you're not skilled yet, it can feel incredibly uncomfortable.
So how do we overcome that?
The source emphasizes that the first step is to change how we view mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, we need to see them as an essential part of the learning process.
Okay, but how do you go from cringing at your mistakes to embracing them?
It's a mindset shift. It's about recognizing that mistakes are inevitable. They're not a sign that you're stupid or incapable. They're just feedback. They highlight areas where you need to improve.
Okay. It's like instead of saying, I messed up, you're saying, okay, this is something I need to work on.
Exactly. It's about taking the emotion out of it and focusing on the information the mistake is giving you.
Right. So it's not, I'm so embarrassed I got that wrong. It's, okay, what can I learn from this so I don't make the same mistake again?
That's the spirit. The source encourages us to allow ourselves to make mistakes, to accept that feeling of embarrassment as a natural part of the learning process.
I really like that phrase, be proud of falling on your face.
Yeah.
It's like you're acknowledging that you're pushing your boundaries, you're trying new things, and yeah, you're going to stumble sometimes.
It's all about resilience. It's about learning to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going.
Okay, I'm feeling a little more brave already. What's next?
This one might seem like a bit of a reality check after that pep talk about embracing mistakes.
Oh, I have a feeling I know where this is going. Let me guess. It's time to get back to work.
You got it. Key number 6 is don't be afraid to do hard work.
Okay, that sounds fair enough. But I thought we were all about making it fun and playful.
We are, but it's not about avoiding effort altogether. The source makes it clear that incorporating playfulness is not about taking the easy route.
So it's like you can make the journey enjoyable, but you still have to put in the miles.
Exactly. The author uses a great analogy about weightlifting. Lifting light weights might give you some minimal improvement, but it's those heavy, challenging sets that really build strength.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's the same with mental training. If you're always staying in your comfort zone, you're not going to make much progress.
Right. It's about being willing to push yourself, to grapple with those difficult concepts, to work through the frustration.
So it's not about making it easy, it's about making it engaging.
Exactly. The playfulness helps you stay motivated, but it's the hard work that drives the actual learning.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get the balance here.
Yeah,
Embrace the challenge, but find ways to make it enjoyable.
you got it. Ready for the final key?
Absolutely. Bring it on.
This one ties everything together beautifully. It's about learning from every experience, both the successes and the setbacks.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. Sounds like we're circling back to the idea of mistakes being valuable.
You're right on the money. Key number 7 is use your stumbling blocks as learning tools.
So it's not just about learning from factual errors, but also from those moments where we feel stuck, frustrated, or discouraged.
Precisely. The source expands the idea of stumbling blocks to include those less tangible challenges. You know, the fear, the self-doubt, the moments where we just want to give up.
Right, because those are just as real as any factual mistake. They can really derail your progress if you let them.
Absolutely. And that's why the author emphasizes that mental training isn't just about acquiring knowledge and skills. It's also about developing the mental fortitude to persevere through those inevitable difficulties.
So it's like every challenge, every setback is an opportunity to practice resilience, to get better at dealing with those difficult emotions.
Exactly. It's about turning those stumbling blocks into stepping stones.
That's a powerful image. So instead of letting those challenges defeat us, we need to figure out how to learn from them, how to use them to our advantage.
Exactly. It's about asking yourself, why did this happen? What can I learn from this? How can I do better next time?
Okay, this has been a really insightful deep dive into these 7 keys to effective mental training. I'm feeling inspired to take my learning to the next level.
That's great to hear. Remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. It's about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs.
And finding those moments of playfulness along the way.
Absolutely. Make it fun, make it engaging, and don't be afraid to put in the effort.
So for everyone listening out there, think about what you're trying to learn or improve right now. What's one of these keys that really resonates with you? What's one small step you can take today to apply it to your own mental training?
It's all about taking action,
Right.
putting these ideas into practice.
And remember, mental training is a journey, not a destination. So be patient with yourself, celebrate those small victories, and don't be afraid to stumble along the way. Because those stumbles, well, they're just opportunities to learn and grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So go out there, embrace the challenge, and enjoy the journey.
Happy training, everyone.